Hey guys, it's Sarah here from New England Junk Journals. I had a viewer request that I show how to make a hidden spine journal. So I'm hoping this will be a pretty quick video because I've prepped a lot ahead of time. I have compiled my 3 signatures that I'm going to put into this journal. I have measured and I've made my little template here. So let me start at the beginning. What you're going to need is a book cover, whether it's one that you make out of chipboard and cover with paper or fabric that includes a spine. In this case, I'm using an old antique book from the Flaxseed Frizzle series called Dr. Papa. And it's just, it was falling all apart. There were pages missing. So I'm going to just show you how I prep a simple book like this. First of all, there is all this paper stuck to the fabric back here that if I glue on top of this, it's just going to come apart anyway. It won't be secure. So I'm just gently peeling off the paper. I had cut out what was left of the pages, just gently along the sides. And since it wasn't attached, I had a floating spine, everything was a-okay. There we go. All right, so the first thing I'm going to want to do is to reinforce this fabric. And you have a few options. I have this paper tape. This is just Scotch paper tape. You could use this. You could use masking tape. You could use Tyvek tape, of which I do not have any. What I am going to use is a couple pieces of this duct tape. It's the regular brown packaging tape. And I just want 2 overlapping pieces. That's straight, hang on. And I'm going to attach it partway over the book board. Take my bone folder here, press that down. Going to snip a little bit off the top. It doesn't have to go all the way to the top. And then as I come around down here, I want to press it in right next to that book block. That, sorry, not the book block, but the book board is what I mean. Let's get this attached to the fabric. And I want that as tight as possible so that this will bend freely. And I really hope that that's what's going to happen. And then, of course, I want one on the side. And I've trimmed back the paper as much as possible so that it doesn't impede the folding of the book. You know what I'm going to do, though? I am going to, just because it kind of touched that, I'm going to just add a little bit of glue stick to this. I really want to make sure that this holds. So this first part is just making sure that our spine is going to be strong enough to hold our papers. Right, everything is sticking. My hands are so sticky. I've been doing all kinds of crafting before this. I've been working on my prompts for Junk Journal January. All right. And I can kind of see this peeking out at the bottom, so I just want to snip that so it's flush. All right, so that is step one. Now we have a spine, and it is, I measured it across, and it is about 1.25 inches, roughly. And so I have taken 2 pieces of heavy cardstock, cut them down to 1.25 by 5 7/8, which is the distance that I measured here. This is going to fit in here nice. I'll be able to close the cover and it'll fit in there really nicely. I can see that this is... You can, if you are concerned about how sticky this packing tape is, of course you could do like I did with the second piece and just run some glue stick over it. Permanent glue stick would be the best. But honestly, this is just, I'm not going to put a ton of pages in here. I'm not worried about this being, you know, exact or precise. I'm also going to be covering this part anyway with a backing paper eventually, so that will keep everything down nicely. Another thing that you can do if you're worried, because this does have a sort of a waxy surface, the packing tape, you can get yourself a little piece of sandpaper and just go along and rough up the top of the tape, and that is going to help whatever your adhesive is that you're going to put on this. It's going to help your adhesive to stick. Now, if you're using something that has kind of like a matte finish on top, you don't have to worry. All right, so that is all nice and roughed up. I am happy about that. All right, so what we're going to do to keep our spine hidden and adhere it in here is we are going to cover our spine piece with some fabric. We're going to attach it to the fabric, and then this and the fabric are going to get glued right in here. So first thing I'm going to do, I did make my template, and this was also pretty easy to make. I measured the same size, and that is 1.25 inches across and 5 7/8 inches down. And this is just paper. This is thick cardstock. This is just a piece of paper. Okay, so I knew it was going to be the same size. I want to center my signatures. So what I do is I simply first fold it in half. So now I have the very center. I mark with a pen, that mark. In this case, I did it with a ruler. I just butted it up against the ruler. I drew my line. Then each of those sides, I just folded in toward the center, and then I just made my lines there. So now my signatures are going to be evenly spaced apart and evenly spaced away from the edges here. Then, of course, I did the same thing. I folded in half, made a mark here, folded them both up, and folded it down. I didn't measure, but you know, it's about 3/4 of an inch. I wanted them pretty even away from the center. Always I mark the top because however evenly you try to make this, there's usually a slight variation between the height between here and here, and it's going to be important that you have it oriented the right way when you go to sew in your signatures. So now that I have this made, the next part is pretty simple. I go ahead and I clip it right exactly where I want it, evenly on my base, my spine. I take a foam block and a little pokey tool. And what I'm gonna do here is I am going to poke on these little cross sections here. Those will give me my signature marks, my stitching marks for the top, the middle, and the bottom for all 3 signatures. Hopefully you can see that. You could be able to see it better on this middle one, I'm sure. And then the bottom. All right. So now I have, you should be able to see those holes in there. And they're not 100% perfectly straight in this instance, but I'm fine with that, mostly for the fact that this is going to be glued down and I'm not going to see any of the stitching anyway. So not a big deal. I also use my template that I punched the spine. I use this as the same template to poke my holes in my signatures. Some people will make 2 templates. I just make one because it's easier for me. So next I need my fabric. So I'm just going to first clip and rip for my height. And then same thing for the width. And then I take off, of course, these little strands. There we go. So this will be glued on here, and this will get glued in there once it's been stitched in. So I'm going to go ahead and use Fabri-Tac for this. And I have a little silicone spatula to spread it all out with. I don't think that's quite enough. Let's try that. Oops. tell you, my fingers are all sticky. I've just been crafting with glue all day long. All right, so now I'm going to try to center this as best I can. And just smooth it down. And I think that is gonna be really nice in there. I like it when it has a little bit of a, I like it when it has a little bit of a fringe that sticks up the top and bottom. All right, so we've secured our book spine, the outside part of it. We have a reinforced kind of a chipboard base for our hidden spine, and it is attached to a piece of fabric. And we've pre-punched our holes so we know where we're going to sew our signatures in. Next step comes actually sewing in the signatures. So I'm going to go ahead, take my template, yeah, that's fine. Just trying to decide if this was my first signature or my last signature. All right, so you want to make sure that your pages are properly spaced. It's kind of the last little thing that I do. And the easiest thing is just to make them the full length of your template. But if you have a specific placement, it's fine too. Okay, I clip that in on this side. Clip it in. Make sure it's all pressed in nicely. You guys have seen signatures done so many times, and I'm by no means an expert when it comes to this. So don't take my word as gospel as far as stitching and signatures. I still get it wrong sometimes as far as having them come out crooked or having holes not big enough. And oops, the last one is up here. All right, and let me grab my needle. All right. A nice thin needle. And I usually use wax thread. I've used other things in the past, but wax thread just, it works so well. You don't experience the loosening. Okay, 1, 2, 3 lengths of the spine. That's how much I use. There we go. All right, I'm gonna take the clips off. All right, so normally you would sew from the center out, and then you would have your 2 lengths of cord at the end that you would tie right here. For a hidden spine, you're actually sewing from here out, if that makes sense, or from here in. Oh, this is gonna be so tricky. All right. I did not clip it, so fingers crossed that I'm actually going to get it where I want it to be. So close, I can feel it so close. Okay, so here, coming up through the middle. Now, I'm looking to see my holes here. And my holes and the holes out back are the same. And they do look like they are the same. So I'm just feeling for the hole. There's kind of like a divot. There we go. All right. We're gonna do what we normally do, skip down. I do like the fact with a hidden spine that you're not really attached to a book yet at this point, so you have a lot more range of motion. There we go. And you've got a lot more room to kind of look inside your signatures. Okay, I'm going to tighten it up. I'm going to go back through the middle here, making sure not to pierce that thread. Let's see. If you can smoothly pull your signatures tight, you'll know that you have not caught this thread. And then I just go make a nice tidy knot and back the other way. Kind of flatten it a little bit and then snip. That's the first signature done and dusted. Let me do one more to show you. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab my template, my punching template. I'm going to find the middle of my signature. I'm going to stretch my pages out. I kind of had them a little too close. I just kind of want to get to the end of this. Because what happens when you don't is sometimes that's when your pages can get a little wonky from signature to signature. You know, so you might have one higher than the other, only because your papers aren't centered evenly. All right, this is right side up, perfect. T for top. And go ahead and take my piercing tool and poke those holes. All right, again, I'm going to measure out. Three lengths. I'm going to find my needle. There we go. All right. Now, I'm going to take just one of these clips off this time and slide that through just so my pages stay together a little bit better. I mean, it wasn't too bad the first time. You just kind of have to, usually pretty much once you have your the first hole go through, you're golden. All right. Go through the bottom, or in this case, the top. Find the hole. Hold them on screen. right down to the bottom hole. Come on out. Okay, there's enough to give me a little bit more leeway. All right, then through the middle. Of course, the most difficult part for me is not piercing the thread. You don't want to get it caught in the thread. Which I think I'm okay. All right, come on out this way. Pull, test to see if it will tighten. It does. That's great. Checking to make sure there's no gaps here. And tie it once. Again. Snip that. All right, now we just got the last signature to go. All right, so here we have our 3 signatures. I'm going to go ahead and add my Fabri-Tac because that is what I am using as probably my strongest glue that I have. There we go. And I am definitely not stingy with the glue when it comes to this because you want this to stick for sure. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put that squarely in the middle. I'm going to go in on this side and I'm going to push in, making sure that that is level inside the spine groove. Come to the side and do the same thing. Make sure that that's exactly where it needs to be in the spine. I put a lot of glue, so it's a bit easy. It moves easily at this point because of that. I'm looking to make sure that my pages are pretty centered. Oh, I love that. You see that? That little fabric up at the top and at the bottom. Love it. All right, I'm gonna go in between each of these signatures, if I can, with my bone folder. Just kind of pressing evenly down between those signatures, making sure that that's really adhered. And it's making full contact with the glue. There we go. That as well. And then right in here. So normally I would wait a little bit so that could be all glued down. I'm gonna get a bigger clip. There we go. Whoop. Yeah, that still needs time. So ideally you want to get that glued in there and you want that to sit for a good several hours, probably overnight. Then you're going to go in and you're going to glue in your fabric. And you're just going to glue it right down here. spread it out because I don't really want to see it through the fabric. Reinforce that spine divot, and then just like that. Once it's dry, you may have to go back in and re-glue maybe the corners or the edge if you see that the glue hasn't quite reached it. But ideally, this is how you would put it in. Oops. Hopefully you can see that. I'm just reinforcing right by the spine, and then I'm just lightly smoothing out across. So I would let that dry, again, several hours or ideally overnight. I will come back and I will show you guys what this looks like when it's all dried and it has its end papers in. All right, guys, I am back. It is the next morning, so this has had a chance to dry overnight. And it's holding up very well. Everything has dried. You can see that it is nice and flat, that our cotton here, our muslin, has dried nicely. I did go in about an hour later and I just ruffled this up to see if it needed any more glue. So I put just a slight line of glue on each side to make sure this was nice and flat. And then I just left it to dry overnight. And the last step, I really want to cover these. So I took a 6x8 that I had, and then I just, yeah, this is the end one. I just kind of, set it in here. I took my pencil and I just marked where I wanted it to be cut. On the bottom, like that, and cut it down. So yeah, last step is just to get this glued in. I'm gonna clip these papers together and just go to town. So with this journal, I think what I'm gonna do is I have Junk Journal January that I'm doing this month. Next month, I have a collab going, but maybe in March, I will go ahead and pick this back up, decorate the cover, and then go ahead and do some work on the inside of this. Right now, it's very, very basic. I'll flip through it in just a second after I get these glued down. So it folds here. I'm not anywhere close to the fold mark. And right here where the corner is naturally rounded like that, I'm just gonna kind of follow that, push my bone folder right in there so that the paper kind of rolls up and into that. Just want it to stick really, really nicely. All the papers that I got for these 3 signatures, I got out of my scrap box. So this is pretty much a scrappy junk journal, scrappy, altered notebook, whatever you want to call it. The only thing that didn't come from my scrap box were the signature covers, which is this beautiful Tim Holtz linen finish wallpaper paperback. All right. I'm going to get the glue as close to the corners so that those are nice and secure. So it's Monday. I would normally have my Junk Journal January video today, but I'm just pushing that out one day so that I could get this video uploaded. And as I mentioned before, this was a subscriber requested video showing how to do the hidden spine. So I love it when you guys send me requests. Lets me know that I'm making the content that you guys are really interested in. And I will put some clips on these two just to make sure that this dries as flat as possible. And there we go. All right, let me give you a quick flip through of the pages in here. I love the size of this. It's really, really cute. So I just, again, I have that Tim Holtz wallpaper page, a little bit of rag paper, Italian rag paper. This is some scrapbook paper left over from the nature journal project that I've been working on. Packing material, dictionary page. This came out of a floral book. This is some beautiful 1800s ledger. And I just have that folded up for a little pocket there. This has got a fold in it from something previous, so I will definitely be strengthening this paper as I go along decorating. And it pretty much repeats. This is some 7 Gypsies, 6x6 page that I tore down. This is from a different kind of ledger here. And I love this. Then in the middle of this one, I have an old letter from the 1930s. But a lot of the same types of paper. That one, again, that has to be strengthened. But this is going to be really fun. And as I go through and decorate the pages, it will start to become more and more interesting looking. You won't notice as much that the pages are pretty much made of the same things in each signature. They'll take on a life of their own, and I am really excited. So that, I believe, I will do in the month of March, as long as nothing else comes up. Looking forward to working in this. So that is pretty much it. Those are the basic steps to making a hidden spine journal. And they come out looking so great. I love getting these really old books. This was falling apart and it was in a bin at the transfer station, ready to be destroyed. And it's just been rescued and turned into such a precious little journal. So thank you guys for joining me. I really hope that this video was helpful. As always, God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.